बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम अस्सलामु अलैकुम जी आयानु बखैर आगले नी हाउ चुरुशुमे वशमले ओहायो गुजाइमस Guten Morgen, hola, boyo, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasal, marhaba, buna, mucho gracias, swabia, bhalli kare aaya, hosh gyal din anayo saya, khuya mora, chi batto, chi hal jod, kali mera, khairutan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for introducing me. Since we have entered into the last Ashra of the Ramadan, Eid is just around the corner, and you know, we feel a little bit nostalgic and a little bit sad that Ramadan is going away, because Ramadan allows us this opportunity to think and reflect that, you know, we attain this heightened sense of spirituality, and then we are capable of having this devotion, of a greater connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we will hope and pray that we are able to keep this connection.
Inshallah.
Inshallah ta'ala. So now we will move on to International Day of the Remembrance of the Victims of the Slavery. The International Day of the Remembrance of the Victims of the Slavery is being observed today to pay homage to the millions of people who have suffered and died as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. It is estimated that in over 400 years, over 15 million men, women and children were victims of slavery. In 2006, United Nations General Assembly recognized that slave trade and slavery were among the worst violations of human rights in the history of humanity, and designated March 25th as an annual International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and Transatlantic Slave Trade, beginning in 2008.
Exactly, and in addition to this, we have always spoken how it is very essential for our future generations to know about the people who've contributed towards where Pakistan actually stands proud. But ladies and gentlemen, today actually Pakistan Television's first female announcer, Miss Kamal Naseer, is being remembered on her 4th death anniversary. Born in Lahore in 1948, Kamal was the daughter of radio's legendary personality Mohni Hamid, also known as Apa Shamim. The popular newscaster joined the media at the age of 17 and remained associated with PTV and Radio Pakistan for 5 decades. She had various feathers on her cap, as she was the first female anchor, first female newscaster, and first female announcer of Pakistan Television. Kamal Naseer made her first announcement at the Pakistan Television on 26 November 1964. She has been awarded with pride of performance and numerous other national awards in recognition of her services. May her soul rest in peace.
And now we will segue into our new segment, which speaks about the role of mother tongue in develop the cognitive abilities in the children. And it's not just that, it also enhances the critical thinking skills. So in order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by Amir Daniel. He happens to be senior translation consultant at the Al Iqbal Open University. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining us.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for having me on this show today. It is really an honor for me.
Thank you so much, Amir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. So first things first, I think what we really need to do is we need to highlight the role of mother language in cognitive development. So first, let's kind of establish it and we'll move forward then.
All right. This concept is not as easy as it seems. Actually, mother tongue has a connection with the cognitive development of a child. But first of all, we need to understand two aspects. The first one is that language is not just a tool for communication. Okay. Basically, it's a foundation of identity. It's a foundation of cognitive development. And the second thing is that we can't just discuss this topic or this concept without analyzing it and without connecting it with endangered languages. Okay. At a later point of time, we'll come together and we'll try to connect it with endangered languages also.
Exactly. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for developing that as well, and where you actually spoke about that it's not only a tool for communication but for a tool for identity. Unfortunately, I think if we are to kind of go with this philosophy or theory, what has happened is that with all of these tablets out there, we do see for a fact that how children are developing their cognitive skills as well. And in addition to this, they're not even speaking their mother tongue. So how would you rate that?
Well, that is a real concern for me as well.
Okay.
First of all, I would go with the...
Why is it a concern first?
Because I think that it breaks the gap between first and third generation, frankly speaking. Okay. Let me put it this way. Suppose parents don't allow their children to talk in their mother tongue at home. Let's put it this way. just say Punjabi. We'll talk about Punjabi
हाँ
first.
जी हो जाए बे, कोई नहीं रोला.
First we'll talk about Punjabi. As per census of 1981, sorry, the speakers of Punjabi were 54%.
Okay.
Right.
But according to the census of 2017, it drastically decreased to 36%.
All right.
Well, that is a drastic decrease, no, as far as percentage is concerned. If we put it this way, that Punjabi is the most spoken language of Pakistan.
नहीं, पर इसका cognitive development से क्या ताल्लुक है?
No, I'm just coming over there. The people, we people actually, we don't allow our children to speak Punjabi at home and socially as well, because it is seen as a stigma.
It's not that we are not allowing, it's just that the children cannot or are not able to speak.
Because you're not putting in an effort
Yeah.
in that sense.
I mean, I tried doing that as well. Puttar
Right.
ki haal hai, maine plate
Right.
liya tha, and you know the response is, Daddy, what are you saying, Daddy?
Yeah, because they never see you speaking
Yeah,
with your
that's
wife,
true.
and that is one of the reasons for that. And I think you are responsible for this conundrum. But Amir, now let's move on to that. And that is that, you know, for a lot of people, like Pakistanis who are watching our show, and it is, they're greatly watching our show. So for their kids who are living in the Western societies, or probably in a non-Urdu speaking society where they're unable to connect towards their native mother language, right? So how do you explain this entire cognitive development in their children? Do you feel that they are disconnecting with their cultural roots and cultural identity, or is it okay, fine, I mean, connecting with English or whatever language, you know, they're living in the predominant societies there?
Well, I believe English is as important as any other language.
Okay.
So we should allow our children to learn English as well, but not at the cost or stake of our own mother tongue, no matter what the mother tongue is. So cognitive development of children, that actually it's very important to understand that the first words that a child hears, it's like mother's words. And that mother's words and that connection, that sensitivity, that helps child to get neural
Pathways?
sorry,
Pathways?
neural pathways as well. It is said that the children
Right.
Yeah,
I
take your time, take your
we will
Excuse me.
develop this conversation further, and we will talk about, you know, kids or parents who want to, obviously mother tongue is an important, but right, what about the kids, you know, who want to learn other languages? For example, they're bilingual or they're multilingual in that aspect, right? So, and especially when they're in the growing up stage, they're like mixing a lot of words, a lot of languages. So do you recommend, you know, going through this pathway, or what do you suggest, you know, how do you want the parents to, you know, instill into their kids about this phenomenon?
Well, in this globalized world, we can't just separate English or English with the native languages. It has become so mixed up culture, so mixed up languages, that even in Urdu or Punjabi or like Balochi, Sindhi, Pashto, they have also got some words from other languages adopted. Like if we talk about Urdu, we have got like glass, we have got refrigerator, television, we have adopted or borrowed words from English.
Right.
So we just can't say that we have to speak entirely in Pashto, or we have to speak entirely in Punjabi or Urdu or whatever.
But Amir sir, we've also seen this phenomena, which like you mentioned about the endangered languages, right? And I think we need to develop a conversation on that. So in Pakistan, we've seen, you know, there was an entire generation of our parents, you know, who did not wanted us to maybe learn Punjabi, because Punjabi is an ethnic group, which is a predominant ethnic group within Pakistan, right? And they considered English perhaps to be a pathway towards having more social, how would I say, prestige in the society, right? And now we've seen, like Shahzad mentioned, that their kids, our kids, they are deprived of, you know, our mother tongue, and I think it brings so much diversity, so much flavor, and so much spice to the language. What do you call it? Lexicon, right? So, you know, how do you recommend that we preserve those endangered languages, and especially to the kids, which we are not passing on to the very rich and strong cultural heritage of this language?
This lack of passing of culture and language from one generation to another is one of the source or one of the reason of endangered languages. As per epilogue, there are more than 7,000 languages spoken in the world, and 1/3 of the languages are at the risk of being endangered.
Yes.
They are endangered zone. But if we look into Pakistan, the scenario is not very bright as well. We have got like 77 languages in Pakistan, and 26 languages are in the danger zone.
Yes.
So we need to look into the reasons why this happens.
Right.
Why do you think it happens?
Yeah, the first thing is that you have already discussed, that is that we don't transfer the language or culture from one generation to another. And that is one reason. The second reason is that in some areas like hilly areas or hard trains or I mean very severe weather, the people migrate from that specific routes to big cities like Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad. So when they move over there, they leave their legacy behind. The next generation, they follow or they adopt the culture of big cities, and they leave behind their mother tongue. So that is also.
And thank you so much, sir, for saying that, because I think I've summed up wonderfully well, you know, for people who are out there to actually have a better understanding. So now imagine, I think if we are to kind of speak about mother tongue will give you a better understanding in making sure that you express, or probably problem solving as well. There's 6 or 7 points which I do believe, which I've taken out of this conversation. Foundation for thought processes, it will set that. Cognitive ability, we were talking about improved memory and learning, social and emotional development, cultural identity and cognitive flexibility, enhanced metalinguistic awareness, and problem solving and influence on your education success.
That's very true. But thank you so much, Amir Sahab, for coming here, for shedding light on a very important phenomena, that is the cognitive development of the children, and that too in the mother tongue. So we will move on to another very interesting news. And Shahzad, if you would want to...
exactly, why not? I think such is the news that we need to share with everybody. And you know, if anybody thinks that, you know, they can actually play that role, please make sure that you do that, because there's probably only 6 or 5 fasts left for us, ladies and gentlemen. So the Rangers Football Club hosted an iftar party for Muslims at Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, Scotland.
Wonderful.
As many as 250 people attended the event, which also featured a call to prayer. The Rangers have become the 2nd Scottish football club after Motherwell, and first in Glasgow to host a Scottish iftar. The purpose of organizing the iftar was to teach people about Ramadan and the Muslim community by hosting iftar events at football stadiums across the country. And even yesterday we shared how, you know, in United States of America, the police guys actually pulled up to people and were actually distributing iftar, and it was a wonderful sight. I hope we could see our police officers do that too.
Wonderful. You know? And I think we often see that on our streets too, that
Alhamdulillah.
people are giving to the police officers. But now we are moving and going around the globe and see how Ramadan is celebrated. So today we have selected Australia, and there is a new mosque there where people are flocking there to observe their fast and Ramadan and have a vibrant culture. So let's go and let's take a look.
Wow.
Wow, and I think we also have a cooking conundrum. Aaj kya pakaun? So in order to resolve this crisis, we have so we have taken the recipe of bisma rice, and she is going to explain, you know, how to cook the chicken quesadillas. Although that might not be very healthy, but it's very tasty, right, in the first place. But obviously, the way she is making it, it makes it so enticing, so healthier, and so yummy to take. Let's go and let's take a look.
عروسة النور تاج البدر يبرزها نجما يشع بأنوار وأنوار مبارك زوجها جاءت على دوار زوج عطاء بتتويج وإبهار كل القلوب تناهت في السنة فرحا بالحسن يبرق في حسن وإسرار كل القلوب تناهت في السنة فرحا بالحسن يبرق في حسن وإسرار على جميل سعادتي وأفكاري تجري الحروف بأشواق وأزهار هذه الحياة قد سرت للسعد في أمل تروي الجمال فيها الدار والأطيار.
So have a very interesting story, you know, in addition to, you know, how we are actually trying to make chicken quesadillas. If it's quesadillas or quesadillas, I don't know.
Right.
People can correct us as well, but write to us at thismorning@ptv.com.pk. So I went to a Mexican restaurant in States. I was like, oh, you know, let's go, let's have quesadillas and whatnot. And as soon as I took the first bite, I couldn't really have any more, you know, so I don't know.
You would need to have plenty of lassi to, you know, in order to cool down the spices that you're feeling in your esophagus. But Shahzad, your cooking is incomplete without the presentation, right? So in order
Yours.
Why? How much is the khala bakala aata
मैं तो जहाँ मर्जी रख दो खा लूँगा कोई मसला नहीं.
That's a, you know, very easy to go, you know, sort of thing. So now we are going to move towards the tablescaping segment, and today we have taken Asima. She goes by the name of Borderless Culinary on her Instagram page. Let's go and let's take a look at how she has decorated her table.
Wow. Well, I have another interesting story over here. Now imagine that, you know, because we moved into a newer place and, you know, we really didn't have the sofas to put in our TV lounge.
Okay.
So imagine my nephew was getting married at our place, and that's when my father said, chalo isi bahane hamara saman to pura ho gaya. Tab hamari cutlery puri ho gayi. Now we can do tablescaping.
Okay, that's wonderful. And now we will move on to another very interesting segment, and that is the importance of sustainability in the organizations. So sustainability is the buzzword. We have seen that it has been talked about a lot, and especially in the context of the climate change and how we need to do justice with the earth that we inhabit. So in order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by REHMAN. He happens to be the head of sustainability at NUST. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you over here. And obviously, when I actually got to read about you and, you know, what you're doing within NUST University itself, that NUST University is actually trying to move on to having more sustainable processes and however it works. So please, first of all, let's give us an explanation of what's happening within NUST and what are you guys trying to achieve?
Okay, so let me tell you that NUST is working on achieving the Agenda 2030, which comes around the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Yep.
So it has different tiers. NUST have divided especially into 4 different segments. For example, if I say the first one is decarbonization, how the operations actually can be decarbonized.
Okay.
The second one is that how we can achieve the circularity model. How can we reduce the waste and how we can make our operations more resilient. And the third one is environmental sustainability, which caters the agriculture as well as other sustainable practices. The fourth, and which is very relevant to me as well, that is youth, that how we can engage the youth across Pakistan and how we can sensitize them. So these are the 3 or 4 different tiers.
But yeah, let's talk about and debate about the sustainability of the Agenda 2030 itself, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's been it's less than 5 years then we go into transition to 2030. And how much do you think globally and on the national level that are we close towards attaining the goals that has been laid down in the conference years ago?
I think you have put me on the spot, I would say. So if we see the word progress, so we'll see that world has achieved almost 24% of the goals that we have committed.
Okay.
So in terms of Pakistan,
in 2025.
So far till 2025 you can say. So and similarly goes for the Pakistan. There are only almost 11 to 12 goals that are, you know, are being reported as they should be. And so, but in terms of NUST, I can say that we report all of the 17.
As it is. All right, I think it's wonderful. You know, so you've actually mentioned about 4 components, and certainly because you really do not represent the government, so it is challenging for you to answer what we're trying to question you over here. But, you know, where you said decarbonization, circularity model, environment, and youth. Now, first of all, I think the interesting bit was I to myself thought that, okay, that if NUST is actually moving on towards a sustainable goal or probably having sustainability, there's labs which are being introduced as well. I think that they will be generating fee for students as well, and the parents might not even have to pay the fee, because such really needs to be the system. But you know, it's the real world we are in. So let's get started with decarbonization first of all. What is being done to kind of decarbonize? And
so the first thing, let me bust the myth that we are not collecting the fee here for the decarbonization.
और उसके लिए sustainability model किसी university के पास नहीं है.
Exactly. So what we are trying to do in the NUST, NUST has a campus of 700 plus acres. So out of 700, we have 300 acres of land that is covered with the vegetation.
Okay.
So the rest land have the buildings and infrastructure. So we have different living lab models which we are scaling up in the decarbonization.
And what's that living lab model?
So the living lab model is, for example, NUST have developed one of the prototype which is known as carbon sequestration tower. So what it does is it works like a tree. So it absorbs the carbon dioxide and gives you the purified clean air.
Is it one of those things which was introduced in Punjab in days of
Yes,
smog?
yes.
Okay. Was it by NUST as well?
Yeah, it
Wow,
was by
wonderful.
NUST. Yeah.
And then is it successful?
Yeah, it's successful, and now we are moving towards the commercialization of those
And did Punjab
units.
government pick up on it?
Yes.
That will need more?
Yes, we are in
Wow.
coordination with the Punjab
Wow,
government
that's
as
beautiful.
well.
Right, and
Yeah.
I think now let's talk about the greenwashing aspect of it, right? Whenever we talk about the sustainability aspect of it, you know, a lot of organizations, a lot of corporates, they're accused of, you know, just greenwashing the entire concept. They're just marketing it. They're not doing anything substantial to curb those greenhouse gases, right? Which is in the first place contributing so much, you know, degeneration of the environment, and we've seen the form of the manifestation of the climate change. So how do we measure this feasibility aspect of it? It's not greenwashing, it is doing something sustainable, something really going in the favor of environment, because at the end of the day, we do see that the corporates are here to earn money out of it, right? And unless and until you change the equation of the money out of it, it's very difficult, you know, bringing the change about it. How do you go about it?
It's very unfortunate, because being an environmentalist, it really touched me as well. So before answering your question, I would like to say that you see a lot of brands over there.
Yeah.
So what comes in your mind when I say the word khadi?
The word?
Khadi or
Obviously.
sapphire.
Yeah. वो नीचे
So-
वाला जो grassroots product है वो नहीं याद आता, brand ही याद आता.
Brand yaad
Yeah.
aata hai. So if we talk about the brands, the greenwashing and the other aspects, you see a lot of resources depletion is there. A lot of a wave in the fast fashion is also going on. So H&M also produces like 52 volumes of
Yes,
the per year. So imagine that how much resources are going in. And then they are labeling it as an green. For example, it comes from the green sources.
True.
So it is really important, and luckily the Gen Zs and the millennials, they have this, a recent study has been conducted which shows that they are more concerned about that what is the ethical sourcing of these products.
Right.
So I think that is really important.
Right, and Zia, I think this brings us to a very interesting conversation, and that is you want to incorporate younger people into your strategy in terms of sustainability. And you mentioned Gen Z and study about the millennials and how they're very health conscious, environment conscious generation, right? So why don't we incorporate spiritual philosophies into this fight against the climate change, right? So for example, in Islam, it is mentioned that, you know, human or man is sent as a stewardship of this entire earth, or he has been made the naib or vicegerent of that, right? And we do have very interesting anecdotes within our own, you know, Islamic tradition where we Prophet mentioned and focused on, you know, protecting the environment, especially in the wars, and generally also not wasting the resources, right? So why are we not thinking in terms of incorporating that spiritual philosophy into this, you know, fight against the climate change?
I think it's very important. It reminds me of one of the schools that is going on in the Yale. So what they have done is, it's a religious school. They are inviting people and they are giving the religious message. So at NUST, what we are trying to do, that we are inculcating this approach in the water conservation.
Right.
Recently, we, Rector NUST have had a campaign on the water conservation, because our Prophet also mentioned that if you are even doing a wudu, So you need to be conscious about that, how much water you are using.
Yeah.
So that is very pertinent. So for that, we have introduced the NUST Summer School on Climate Change.
Wow.
That is a 5-day training. We invite the people from across Pakistan, from each province, from age 15 to almost 25. And we house them at NUST. We provide them with accommodation, meals, and everything. So it's a fully funded school, and we train them on these subjects.
So how to probably, not to be a member, who's actually wasting a lot of resources as well. But,
Yeah.
you just very quickly coming back to the idea where you said that, NUST is actually 700 acres of land.
Yeah.
700 acres? That's
Yeah.
quite a lot,
Sector,
alhamdulillah, yeah. So now imagine, what I would want you to kind of answer is that where we're talking about, how we really need to kind of make sure that we're in line with sustainable development goals and how, people are moving on to renewable energy sources as well. So for you to kind of have 700 acres of land, and not just that, how is NUST transitioning from the conventional resources of energy to, the renewable ones?
So the top thing is that we need to think that is it economically viable? So when I say that the 400 acres are covered by different infrastructure, which means that a lot of energy is being consumed. So we have pledged that by 2030, we are moving towards net zero, which means that we are transitioning towards the
ये अभी 2025 तक कुछ किया है इसका या नहीं?
जी जी बिल्कुल. So for example, हम अगर कहें तो 4 megawatt is the consumption of electricity.
Okay.
So out of 4, 1 megawatt we have switched towards the renewable energy. So and slowly and steadily we are moving towards achieving the 100% renewable energy.
And I'm sorry,
in
I
the
do know
campus.
that my mic's not right, but I need to talk
Yeah.
about water consumption as well, because 300 acre is actually filled with, vegetation.
Yeah.
So what about water then?
Right.
So the 3 tiers I would like to focus. The first in energy, second is water. All the water that has been used at the NUST, there is a membrane bioreactor which is known as MBR plant.
Okay.
We are utilizing that wastewater to then give to the horticulture lands across the NUST campus.
Right.
So we are conserving the water in that sense as well.
Beautiful.
Right, and thank you so much, Zia, for coming here, for shedding the light on very important topic about the sustainability. We're going on a short break, and after we come back, we will continue our discussion. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to PD World. You're still watching World this morning. It's me, Shahzad Khan, and Hajra Satti. And before heading out towards a short break, we were talking about how NUST is actually moving on to a complete sustainable environment, and I think it's great. Everybody needs to learn from their processes, particularly what they have done in Punjab, with that solution, which is going to be an anti-smog machine, and I think it's going to be lovely. Wow.
Right, and now we will move on to another interesting news where Japanese artists make very unique coffee art. So Japanese artist has an extraordinary talent of creating artworks which are not on display at any exhibition or gallery. His creations are on the display in the coffee mugs. The artist does not create the regular smiley faces or flat patterns, but actually 3D foam sculptures in the coffee mugs. Besides these marvelous coffee artworks, he also does amazing flat latte coffee art. And probably Shahzad here is a great coffee fan, so he might enjoy the coffee art and interesting sort of the 3D formations form on the coffee.
You know what? I think it looks lovely as well, and it takes a lot of kind of skill to do that. But I was never a coffee fan earlier,
Really? Oh, really?
and I became a coffee fan because that's the only solution for your fatty liver. So that's why I actually have to have black coffee as well. But very quickly, there's a surprise. Imagine a snake was discovered frozen in an ice cream in Thailand.
Oh
Allah
my God.
maafi.
Allah.
As per details, a man had purchased ice cream, and on unwrapping it, got a shock to find a frozen black and yellow snake staring at him. Well, that looks like a very unique snake as well. He then took pictures of the bizarre discovery and uploaded it on Facebook. The images soon went viral and received a flood of reactions. Oh my God! I mean, everybody, please make sure. So it's not only in Pakistan you find lal beg in juice dabbas, so it's in snakes and ice cream too in Thailand.
True. So now, of course, Shahzad, we will segue into a very interesting conversation, and that is, I think, a lot of us might struggle with this phenomena that, when you yourself are struggling and, someone very close to you or someone generally in your circle achieves something that you wish should really deeply about that thing. So how to foster the joy in that particular situation, because we are human beings, we are all vulnerable to the whisperings of the shaitan or the Lucifer whisperings or waswasa of the shaitan. And now how, in order to make sure that, you know, we are guided in the right direction. So in order to unfold the conversation about fostering joys for others while you are yourself struggling, how do we do that? In order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by Dr. ZUBAIR. She happens to be a professional therapist and a counselor. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. ZUBAIR, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you. Always a pleasure being here.
It's always a pleasure. I mean, you came here, and that too is such a short notice. So, Dr. ZUBAIR, let's unfold this conversation, right? I mean, we are all humans, right?
Yes.
We do face the emotions of envy, of the jealousy, and I do believe that these emotions are not in the minefield, but they are the coach, right? They're directing towards something. How do we make sure that they are a source of a positivity and productivity, and Shaitan is not misguiding us?
I think, Hajra, this is a very wonderful topic you've chosen for today, and very apt also in this day and age. You know, what's very important, I've noticed comparisons. We do a lot of comparisons, you know, whether it's with our siblings, whether it's with relatives, friends, etc. Comparison is the killer of joy, right? Any kind of joy. So when you start comparing yourself, it means you somehow think you are lesser than the other person. So there and then you've actually killed your, like, you might call it vibe, or your or your ambition, or your aim, or your hope. So, you know, why compare? Every human being has been made very different. So instead of comparing, I think if you enjoy the joys and, you know, practice a little bit of empathy, compassion.
But no matter, Dr. Saiba, you know, let's be honest, you know, I think it's just how we are built, and it's just by design as well, which is why Allah is actually going to give us a lot of reward to do that. But having said so, I mean, it's not that simple to do it. Unfortunately, for people who are struggling, for them to see कि यार एक घर में, you know, there's so many blessings, and unfortunately we are struggling. There's no way that the comparison cannot be drawn, and at times people do think, yeah, you know, what are they doing different that I'm not doing? How do you think that we can actually practice or exercise in a way that, you know, we kind of get rid of these emotions, or how we actually feel?
You know, I'll give you, when you were talking, I thought of J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, right? So if she was supposed to, or she ever listened to that mantra, that means she would have never published Harry Potter, right? So I think just keep going on, keep motivating yourself. That's very important. When your focus is outward, you're always thinking about others. When your focus turns inwards, that's when you start thinking about yourself. So, you know, do things for yourself first. When you start doing things for yourself and giving yourself a little bit of importance, that's when you realize that, you know what, this comparison is a little like,
I think there's one more thing in addition to this, and I've practiced it myself and I've seen it happening to me, and that is that if, you know, because there's two school of thoughts. One, you're very thankful to Allah Almighty. Two, that you're actually complaining that Allah, you know, ek dusre ka ghar to bada acha chal raha hai, mera bhi acha chalna chahiye, alhamdulillah. But with that, I think when you start to have these thought processes of abundance, that, you know, okay, whatever I have is enough for me, and alhamdulillah, thank you so much, Allah Almighty, you will see how your mindset actually kind of changes, and, you know, the way that the affair of your things were going. Because whatever we say will cause a vibration, and whatever word you are going to utter from your mouth will actually bring you what you're saying or thinking.
And I think one of the quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-wasi. It means wusal, you know, that He is abundant. So Dr. ZUBAIR, I mean, when we are grappling with the emotions of jealousy, envy, I think as a humans we do go through this, right?
Yes.
People may not talk about it, it's a taboo thing, but, you know, we do go through it, right? And I think what happens is that it blocks, you know, our ability to appreciate the blessings of our brothers and sisters in faith or in humanity generally, right? So how do we, I mean, Islamically grapple with this situation, and what do we do to, I mean, avoid these feelings?
Okay,
I'll manage them, I would say.
I'll just explain it. You know, this is a very common phenomenon. It's called the missing block syndrome. Like, you always notice the missing block, right, rather than all the other blocks which are in place. So when you say that, I think just appreciating little things that we have is very important. We on a day-to-day life, we actually miss out so many things that we might have. You know, like for example, if we are comparing ourselves constantly to, let's say for example, Bill Gates or someone, we have a lot of skills. We are given a lot of little positive things also happening in our life. Just the food on your table, if you start, you know, appreciating that, if you start appreciating your family members more, that you have a family. You know, if we look at little things, I think that can create a big difference. And like Shahzad said, you know, abundance. So that is the basic concept of our religion, basically, that hopefulness.
Start to think like that.
Yes, be hopeful about things, and then you start attracting things.
Exactly. Now let's move on to the other party as well, where, you know, there's this person who's been blessed with by Allah Almighty's every blessing, and alhamdulillah, they're doing wonderfully well. So if they see that somebody is not really happy with their success, what do you think they should do?
Okay, so I will say, first of all, start by being kind to yourself. Start setting little boundaries for yourself also. You know, when you are pleasing everybody and then you're saying, oh, you know what, this person has so much, this person, it means this is the person who's suffering, because you're pleasing everybody but yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're constantly focusing externally, the internal person is always feeling left out.
And there's one more problem, and it's very interesting. So imagine we have a Chaudhary culture over here, you know, people who actually drive all of these Land Cruisers and whatnot. So I, for a fact, have seen myself how, you know, they stay rich. Now imagine that when they will have their friends over, probably they're driving somewhere around, another friend of that Chaudhary will actually, you know, go reach his pocket and take out his wallet and be like, oh sir, मैं petrol के पैसे देता हूँ. Once the Chaudhary will actually go for dinner somewhere else, oh sir, आप नहीं क्यों देना, मैं पैसे देता हूँ. So the Chaudhary is really not spending. Chaudhary is enjoying the lifestyle, and everybody, to kind of impress that Chaudhary, is kind of spending money where they were not supposed to be. So please make sure that you do your financial analysis yourself. But thank you so much, Dr. Saiba, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you never disagree with the division of Allah Almighty's blessing. I think that's the only solution for each and every one of us. Please write to us on worldthismorning@pdb.com.pk. Thank you so much, Hajra. Thank you so much to our audiences who are out there. Until next time, look out yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Ramadan Mubarak. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Until next time.